Hi there, this is Jonathan Ginsberg. I'm an Atlanta area personal bankruptcy attorney. And today I'd like to answer a question about personal bankruptcy. That is, if you need to file bankruptcy, whether it's a Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, and you're married, does your spouse, your husband or wife, have to file as well? And the answer is no. Your spouse does not have to file. In fact, when you file jointly with your spouse, it's really two separate cases that are simply heard by the same judge at the same time because of judicial economy. It makes it easier for a judge and trustees to deal with two individual cases of a married couple than to have two separate cases with different judges and so forth. And it's just easier to coordinate your budget when you do that. So if most of the debt you've got is in the name of one spouse, the other spouse does not have to file. And that's true even if the other spouse has title interest in real estate or a motor vehicle. You simply adjust what exemptions you can claim based on ownership interest. So let's say, for example, you have equity. We'll use cash because it's easier. Let's say you have a bank account that's got $10,000. It's a joint bank account. When I'm scheduling that, okay, I will show $10,000 in the account, but I'm showing my client, who's filing individually, has only $5,000 interest in it because he only owns half of it. Even though Georgia is what they call an equitable division state, and a divorce judge might award it differently for our purposes, for bankruptcy purposes, I just split it in half. So if there's a lot of equity there and you have half interest in it, then you only have half interest in the equity, but you can claim your full exemption. So again, it's not real complicated, but it's certainly worth discussing if you have debt. Let's say you have most of the debt, 80%, your spouse has 20%, does it make sense for only you to file so your spouse's credit will not be negatively impacted? Some of the things I look at would be if there's joint debt and you discharge it, is that going to cause the creditor to come after your spouse? So sometimes it does make sense for both spouses to file, even if one spouse has 80% of the debt, and sometimes it makes sense for both spouses to file. It just really depends on the circumstances. And one of the things that Susan Bloom and I will do when we sit down with you is discuss with you and your spouse the pros and cons of filing individually, one of you, versus filing jointly. And I'll also just say as a side note that not filing bankruptcy because you're concerned about credit, I think it's less important of an issue nowadays, because what I'm seeing people do is recover from bankruptcy within about a year. So in my mind, if I can get rid of a bunch of debt, $15,000, $20,000 of debt, it's worth taking the hit on my credit for a year as opposed to not filing, having one spouse not file, but end up keeping $15,000 or $20,000 of debt, which is going to be much more difficult to pay off down the road. So, but again, case-by-case type of situation is one of these things that we will discuss with you in detail in an office visit and help you make the best decision. And the other thing just to be aware of too is if you file jointly, there's no difference in price. It's the same price whether you file individually or jointly. You obviously pay one filing fee, and the attorney's fees are going to be the same either way. You do both have to get the credit counseling certificates, so there's another $20 it's going to cost, but there's no cost difference. So again, I would just say do what is best for you and your spouse based on your debt load and the long-term impact of filing bankruptcy, as well as the short-term ability to get your credit back after bankruptcy, which is getting shorter and shorter every day. So hope that answers that question. I hope you found this helpful. If you did find it useful, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube and like it on Facebook. Subscribe to our channels and let me know if there's any other bankruptcy issues you'd like me to cover in future videos. So for now, this is Jonathan Ginsberg, and wish you well.